Hi, my name is James Frakes, and I'm a master's student at the University of Montana in Art Wood's lab. So I'm especially interested in studying aquatic ectotherm physiology, and a fundamental aspect of their life is dealing with the oxygen problem, as we call it in our lab. And that's that there's 33 times less oxygen in water than there is in air, and molecules of oxygen move 300,000 times slower in that dense viscous fluid. This challenge makes it extremely hard for aquatic insects like the one I study here, the giant salmonfly nymph, to respire simply because they rely on passive diffusion of oxygen from the environment. The problem is also amplified in warm waters because insects' metabolic rate increases really quickly with temperature. And eventually, what happens is at high temperatures, the demand for oxygen surpasses the environmental supply. And this is thought to drive the upper thermal limits of many aquatic species, and especially aquatic insects. But a factor that's received significantly less attention is this factor of water flow, which influences the delivery of oxygen and affects the entire system. So the way that water flow affects delivery is through the shrinking or growing of boundary layers, which form around objects submerged in water, like insects. So let's look at this first panel here. On the left, you can see a high flow situation where boundary layers are thin and oxygen molecules can diffuse quickly into organisms. But in slow flows, these boundary layers or shells of slow moving fluid can act as barriers to diffusion, and oxygen moves really slowly into insects. So to understand how important flow is to the heat and hypoxia tolerance of these giant salmonfly nymphs, I performed two physiological experiments. First, one where I ramped up temperature, and I did this across a range of oxygen levels. And then another one where I ramped down oxygen, and I did that across a range of temperatures. And I repeated both of these with and without flow. And I was able to do this in a water flume where I could control temperature, oxygen, and flow simultaneously. So what I found was that the temperature and oxygen interaction was significant in all of my experiments. But maybe more importantly is that flow influenced the results significantly too. And so here in this panel B, you can see that flow increases the amount of heat that the insects can withstand by about 4 degrees across the range of oxygen. And then in this panel C, you can see that flow allows them to handle 15% saturation, lower hypoxia when flow is present. And then finally here in panel D, I measured the onset of a respiratory ventilation movement that these insects perform. And you can see this here, it's called push-ups. And this is a movement that they do to self-generate flow around their gills. And they tend to do these movements even at really comfortable temperature and oxygen situations like here when there is no flow present. But when you add flow, they don't do this response until significantly more extreme hypoxia or temperatures. So these results have really important implications with climate change. And that's because stream temperatures are predicted to rise worldwide. And in many of the ranges, water flow is predicted to decrease. And these two factors combined present a combined threat for the future of aquatic insects. Thank you for listening.